Yes, right now.
I think we are right. Hello, Ahmedabad Book Club and readers, followers, everyone. My name is Kalpana. I'm Kalpana Ramrakhani, and today we have a very special guest with us. We have Simi Panicker, who has recently published her debut book, Sita Now You Know Me. I hope you can all clearly see the cover. This beautiful cover is just a glimpse into the beautiful book that has been written. So before we start, I would just like to say like a little talk a little about the book. The book is the retelling of Ramayana from Sita's perspective. I think this one line description is good enough, and it's intriguing enough for anybody to pick this book up because we have always read Ramayana, heard stories of Ramayana from Ram's perspective. Now we get to have a new perspective here from a new point of view, thanks to Simi Panicker. Yes, Simi.
Thank you, Kalpana, and good evening to you, and good evening to all
Good
of you.
evening.
And many thanks to Ahmedabad Book Club and Duba Publications for this event. I am very delighted to be here. Thank you again for spending this Friday evening with me.
So, Simi, people are excited to hear a new name in the literature circle. So, who is Simi Panicker? Because it is a debut book and we don't know much about you. So, please tell us something about you first.
Sure. This is a great way to start a conversation. Thank you, Kalpana, for this great question. I really appreciate it. I grew up in a small village. I was born and raised in a small village near a place called Trikakara. It is in Kochi, in Kerala. Now, Trikakara has a place. It's kind of famous in Kerala, and it has an association with mythology. So we are already entering the world of mythology.
Right from the time you were born,
Yes.
you were a little girl.
So legends there say that Lord Vishnu came there as fifth incarnation, Vamana, to send Mahabali, who's the Asura king, very popular and powerful king. He's the grandson of Prahlada. And of course, Indra and the Devas did not like that. So, of course, Vishnu was there to take care of that problem. So, the place is known as the place where, Vishnu's sacred feet. That's what Trikakara means, basically. And there is this beautiful Kerala traditional temple there with Vamana as the deity there. So anyway, I grew up very adjacent to this in a small village with beautiful rice fields and coconut lagoons and mango trees and jackfruit trees. And I'm still very nostalgic about it, even after almost 30 years in this country. So I came here after receiving a master's degree in chemistry. I continued.
So, just a moment here for the audience means US. Sini is currently living there. So, please continue.
Yes, exactly. So here means the US, Washington area in US. And I continued my graduate studies in chemistry, especially in organic chemistry with a PhD program. And I did 4 years of work. But I began to work before I completed the degree. So I do not hold a doctorate still after 4 years of PhD. And my first work with the US government was as a scientist, as a chemist, with the Department of Agriculture, and working with insect sex pheromones. So these are chemical compounds, very special in the world of insects, where the females secrete this compound to attract males. So I used to joke with the senior scientists there that we should abandon all the insects and moths and instead find something for humans so that we could be all rich. But from there, I went to another interesting field, narcotics and drugs. And for the last 26 years, I work for U.S. Department of Justice. I work as a heroin expert for them. I lead a program that combines forensic science and organic chemistry etc., to determine the source of heroin that's coming to the US. Basically, is it coming from Afghanistan, or is it Mexico? Is it Colombia? And
Okay.
so
Okay.
that's what I've been doing. So from all these comments, you can see that I have no collection or connection to the world of literature.
Literature and mythology.
Or mythology. I
Okay.
have never studied it. I have never been a part of it. And I'm a wife and a mother too. And we live about 35 miles away in Virginia suburb from
Okay.
capital area.
Mm-hmm. So, where does literature fit in this scenario when you're juggling as a scientist, as a US federal government officer, and as a person who's working with the narcotics and everything? Where does the author come into the picture? Where does the author fit into this picture?
So that's a very good question too, because yeah, I love books. I love words. So it's always been my passion to read books. Even though I'm a scientist, more focusing on the chemistry side of things, I've always felt like I'm a pseudoscientist. That I'm a wannabe writer, but I never attempted at it because I'm too lazy, to be honest with you, or I was never inspired that much. So yeah, so it's definitely the world of science and mythology are two different subjects. Mythology is almost sacred. It's magical. It can be fun. The sky is the limit to do anything in the realm of mythology. But here on the science, it's very precise. We target for the results, and it's more assuring to do a research experiment and to get the results to validate that. That's exciting. But to me,
Validation is something that doesn't fit in mythology.
it doesn't. And that is the beauty,
So,
and that is the flow, if you will, because that gives you the power to be as free as possible in the world of mythology, but not in science. Yes,
not in the world of science. The imagination can go, but then there are practical limitations. So,
exactly.
is being an author a kind of break away from your regular role? Is it the quest to do something that goes beyond validation, that goes beyond proof? Is it something to do with that?
No, not at all. Actually, it all happened very naturally, organically. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so let me tell you a little bit about how this Sita happened. So
Yes.
I've always wanted to write fiction ever since I was a teenager, but with almost
Mm-hmm.
30 years in the field of science, I kind of abandoned that dream. I thought
Okay.
foolish to hold on to that, and I decided that I'm never going to be an author, which is fine with me. I was happy with my science and reading books and watching, and streaming television shows. And traveling. That's good. But what happened was that 2017 was a difficult year for me. So I lost both my parents in Kerala that year.
Oh,
So my mom died in January, and my dad followed her in December. I
within a year.
within 10, 11 months. So I traveled
Mm-hmm.
twice to Kerala that year. I used to go there every year to spend 3 weeks or 4 weeks with them. I made annual visits. I was very close to my parents, and I had lost my only sibling about 10 years ago. So with their
Oh.
passing, I felt like I lost that powerful thread that connected me to India. With my pain and suffering, it seems like I lost India altogether with them. So that was definitely in the backdrop. And then something else happened in 2017. Uh, there was hashtag Me Too movement, and it was getting so much popularity. The movement started back in 2005 or 2006, but in 2017 it became really popular. It gained so much traction in the media against sexual harassment and sexual abuse. And obviously, there is no connection to Sita, to that kind of Me Too movement. But at the same time, I've had several discussions with my friends and relatives, and so many other topics such as physical and verbal abuse towards women, the ongoing demeaning treatment towards women all over this earth, the discrimination, the stigmatization. So the list goes on. And there was this basically, the news about kids getting abducted in Nigeria, schoolgirls. As part of my heroin study, like into heroin trade globally, I understood something called opium brides in Afghanistan. There, where the farmers take loans, and when they cannot repay the loan back, then the daughters will become the payment. So they are known as opium brides in Afghanistan. So with all this background, when I was having the discussion, Sita flashed in my mind. And then she began to reside in my head, basically demanding to write this book. It's just a combination of all this background from Me Too and several discussions. And thus, I started to read some Ramayanas because I wanted to see if I can do this. And my sister-in-law actually separately asked me if I could write a book on Sita. And that was like a sign to me. Like I had this thought in my head, and then she was asking, totally out of the blue about Sita book. And I thought, okay, so I told the Sita who was residing in my head already that I will read some, Ramayanas and see how it goes. So I picked up a translation of Valmiki Ramayana. I read that. Then I read Ramayana by C. Rajagopalachari. I read the Ramayana by R.K. Narayan. I read two Malayalam ones, and one was based on Kamba Ramayana from Tamil Nadu. And then I read the Sita book by Dr. Patnaik. I had another book.
Devdutt Patnaik, an inspiration, a prominent name in the field of mythology.
Exactly.
Modern mythology or modern retelling and interpretation of mythology, if we can call
that. Then there was one more book that I want to mention. There is a guru named Nitya Chaitanya Yadi. He used to live in Kerala. I'm very fond of his teachings or insights. He wrote a book in Malayalam called, I'm translating that title, Sita Through Centuries, and it provided me insight and inspiration. So with all this reading and researching, the novel kind of began to take shape in my head. And so I wrote one chapter thinking that would be the end of it. Then I wrote one and another one, and now we are here today talking about it. So that's how it happened, out of the blue, with no real idea that I would ever write a book based on mythology.
But it happened organically with you, and one thing led to another.
Absolutely. So it was natural.
So did you enjoy? Yes. Did you enjoy the process of writing? Was it a good change from being a scientist and conducting experiments and researching stuff?
Absolutely, Kalpana. I loved every minute of it, to be honest. It was hard work because I work as a scientist. I spend probably 9 to 10 hours at the office. I deal with a lot of people, chemists and agents and analysts. And then I come home every Monday through Friday. I come home like an expended person. I have zero energy when I come home. But that drove me to work hard on the weekends. The weekends are usually for, just to relax and read and watch some TV or, just go for a hike or gardening, things like that. That's how I spend my weekends. But here she was so persistent, to be honest. I usually wake up late on weekends, but I wake up at 6:30 and I will be by my laptop by 7. I wrote with a discipline that I had not before, from morning till evening. And I did that in the weekends. I took some time off. Actually, I had something called use or lose leave. So I did that, and I was able to finish the first draft. It was like the story was flowing from my head so freely and so effortlessly. I was terrified in the beginning. I prostrated at the feet of Valmiki so many times because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Because I've never even written a short story, to be honest. Okay, so this was my first real writing, and then I managed to finish the first draft in 4 months because I had this
That's an
discipline about it.
achievement. Yes, that's a great achievement. That is something that many authors would envy. Finishing the first manuscript in 4 months, that's a feat. That too, managing a full-time job and a family and everything. So just
Yes.
working on weekends. So that's a commendable accomplishment.
Oh,
That
thank
that's
you. And
very
all the credit goes to Sita. I think I didn't. I'm not taking any credit. Basically, as I told you earlier, I'm pretty lazy. Okay, so it's something.
No, but that is the thing, that something draws you so
Yeah.
in so effortlessly, and something is feels so compelling that
Yeah.
unless you put it on paper, it becomes difficult for you to function unless you get it out of your system in a way. So, and this is a very productive and a very nice way of taking something out of your system rather than doing something destructive. This is a good way of taking something out of your system. Is if a story is there living with you, if you have been
Mhm.
living with a story, if you have been so engrossed with some characters, some people, and something like that, and you feel so compelled to tell it from
Yes.
your own perspective, even though the story has been told maybe a million times or more, but
Yes.
still, it something is there that draws your pen, that drives you, your pen or
Mhm.
keyboard or whatever, and
Yes.
pushes you to finish it and doesn't let you breathe unless you do that.
Absolutely. You are an author. You know that, right? So that's exactly what happened. So that's exactly what happened. Yeah. I couldn't be free of it. Yes. Honestly, yes.
Yes. So, Sini, I would again, like we have spoken about how mythology and Sita have
Mhm.
been important in your lives, and how you have read so many books and you have felt connected to mythology since you were a little girl. So, tell me, how does retelling those stories in the modern times come into play?
Right. So there have been so many, right? There has been so many retellings lately. I mean, there is an
Yes.
interest in the mythology retold stories, not only in India and here too. So here, the mythology retold genre mainly means Greek based, Helen of the Troy,
Yeah.
the Penelopia,
Yeah.
things like that. So here,
Authors like Neil Gaiman and Stephen Fry have been doing a commendable job in retelling these German Greek mythologies, not German, but
right,
Greek mythologies.
exactly. So Indian
So, what
mythology.
is this newfound? What do you think is the seed, the root cause behind this newfound interest of the contemporary 21st century person in stories that may or may not have taken place thousands of years ago?
I know it's fascinating, isn't it? So
It is fascinating.
I don't know, with all this technology and all this advancement in science and technology, and we are experiencing the beauty and the use of it right now. Chatting from Virginia to Ahmedabad, basically. So it's all
Yes.
wonderful, and yet I do believe that the population everywhere basically is in search of something more deeper, something that makes sense to them, to a place for belonging. So there is definitely that renewed interest. I don't know, the anarchy or the chaos that we feel is driving people to it. And the another thing about mythology retold is I felt like that interpretation is definitely an interesting aspect of it, right? Every writer, every takes and
Yes.
in part, like what takes it in his own her own way based on the sum of the experiences that person had in his life or accumulated from friends and family members or that. So there is, and then that story is so relatable because you already know the story. You're looking for the
Mm.
new way of, okay, what is happening here? Am I understanding Sita a little bit better, or Draupadi in a different context, different perspective?
Yes.
So there is a relation. We all have this connection to the characters already, and then the
Mhm.
reading makes us more even connected to them in a much deeper.
Yes. Authors like Chitra Karuni Banerjee and Anand Neelkatan have been doing a tremendous job.
Absolutely.
Asura was told from Ravan's perspective. Palace of Illusions was written from the Draupadi's perspective. And now we have one more in the commendable list of books that have been retold with new perspectives. So, do you think the issues that are raised in Sita in your book are different from the issues that we have been focusing on in the traditional telling of Ramayana?
Yes, in a way it is, because what I try to do with my book, and I've read Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni's Palace of Illusions. I love that book. I've read some many other, even Khandekar's Yayadi, and then there were a couple of retellings in Malayalam literature. One of mine is really my Jnanapith Award winner M.T. Vasudevan Nayar's Dandamuram. It means second term.
Okay.
It's for Bhima from Mahabharata. So I've been in this world looking at these interpretations or new perspective that authors have provided for us for even decades now. And when I was seriously thinking about writing this Sita, one thing there were a few things that I actually had in my head about my Sita, how she would be different from rest of them, and then what am I trying to do here? What am I trying to say here? So this is like a modern day retelling for the readers, the contemporary readers who don't get attracted to the mythology per se, but with a human story. Basically, here is a Sita. I tried to strip the divinity away as best as I could from all characters. Okay, so it's a human.
Yes.
To
They're
be
more human than I've ever come across in any retelling of Ramayana.
absolutely, it's a almost totally human story. So it is emotionally rich because of that. We can concentrate on the feelings, the characters, and so some might find it too emotionally rich or too bland, or I don't know how they will read it. Time shall tell. But so this Sita is going through. There are 4 sections in this book, and each section you will see that kind of like vanishing but emerging, vanishing but emerging, and towards the end, she is this very strong, resilient woman that the current women can relate to in many ways, even though she's ancient, but she's telling you a modern story that we can easily follow and relate to. So that's what I was trying. That's what I try to do, but I'm not sure I or not.
One thing that I felt while reading this book was I could constantly see how things have changed, and at the same time, I could constantly feel how things have not changed at all.
Yes.
So that was one of the things that I found really beautiful in your retelling, because there were sections, there were places, and I mean a plot line. There are so many things that are like, ab to ye nahi hoga. So it's like so much has changed, but at the same time, so much hasn't changed.
Exactly.
So that is why, it was an extremely feminist book for me. I found it a very feminist, I don't know, a very feminist tale. Especially one thing that I found very intriguing was while even in sections, even where Sita has been targeted or Sita has been oppressed or some injustice is being done to her, traditionally the focus has been on Ram's dilemma. So he has to abandon his wife. Nobody's focusing on what is happening to the wife and how she is feeling. Everybody is like, how it is difficult for him to make that choice, how it is difficult for him to abandon the woman his love, how difficult it is for him to be to follow what he understands, what he feels is his dharma, is his righteousness. And amidst all this, what is lost is how Sita is feeling. What is she going through? The only thing is the only thing that is remotely, vaguely, superficially highlighted is that she is troubled because she is being separated from her husband.
Right.
And what, as a child, I always felt was she must be angry.
Yes.
And nowhere we can see that anger in the tradition. If I was in her place, I would be extremely angry and furious. But nowhere in the traditional tale, and we, as a contemporary reader, as a person who lives in the 21st century, I cannot digest her not being angry, not being furious for, even though it's the classic case of punishing the victim.
Exactly.
Ramayana is a classic tale of punishing the victim. And that, even as a child, always bothered me.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
so thanks to authors like you and a few others that we have already mentioned,
Yeah.
that anger is now on display. So every man today who worships Rama can understand that women will get angry if you do something like this to them. Don't expect
Exactly.
to get away with it. He may have got away with it, but you will not get away by doing something like this. So
Exactly. So,
that
yeah, please continue.
yes, so that is what, yeah, that was, I was saying that that is what, that is why we are, maybe as a reader, I am so drawn towards this retelling.
Yes.
Asura was told from Ravan's perspective, and there's this age old classic adage that the stories are always told by the winner,
Mm.
by the one who succeeds, and never from the perspective one of the one who loses the battle and loses the war. But when you look at the perspective of one who lost the war, you understand that not righteousness doesn't always win. It
No.
may appear so because he is telling the story. The winner
Exactly.
is telling the story.
Right.
So as a reader, this is what really what I feel that draws me towards these stories, which are old but not old, and which make them relevant in my times. These new perspectives,
Yeah,
the liberty
exactly.
of being angry.
Yes, and you will see plenty of scenes where Sita is angry in this book because she's not shying
Yes.
from expressing her feelings. She's not shying away from talking about it, revealing them through her own words, basically. And it gives, like, we, like you said, we always thought of Sita like this iconic role model. She's unique. And I counted how many times Sita appears in Valmiki's Ramayana, and I think I found out that it was less than 12 times. So there is so much
Don't
silence,
tell me.
less than a
Just 12 times? We
about
never
10,
counted.
11 times, like that. That's all there she was in
Oh,
the original story.
that,
So there is so much to work with. That's exciting because Valmiki has been mostly silent, but he gave her enough clarity and enough
yes,
visibility for us to work with her. So I'm thankful
yes,
for that. So, but at the same
yes.
time, to get to see that we can relate to, like I said, in 21st century, we have to break her shell basically, and move her from as a shadow into this limelight, basically as a human being. She's
Hmm.
graceful, she's elegant, she's strong, she's resilient, but she's also very human, like you and me. That's what my Sita is.
Yes. So one another this classic trope of storytelling is that we even as a society, even as someone who watches tens and thousands of hundreds of Bollywood films, and it's a staple with us, we tend to idolize victimhood. We tend to idolize people who have been sacrificing, which
Yes,
now I understand is not the correct way to go. But for years we were like, "Ki, we were worshipping people who have been sacrificing their lives and their
right.
rights and their dignity even in many places. So we
Yes,
have the tendency to worship women who suffer, which
yeah.
needs to change, and which stories like Sita, the new one, are helping us do move towards.
Absolutely. We even attach some kind of nobility to that sacrifice, and then they become these, role models and idols for us. And that is not the way to go. And we mentioned so many retellings and mythology-based retelling, especially on female characters from the Puranas. And I'm hoping that, Kalpana, that they are here to stay. If you had asked me back in, for 2018, do we need more retellings of the Ramayana? I would say, heck no. But then I went and wrote,
Yes,
right? So right now, after that process, though, I do understand that these characters are here to stay because we have to do better. We have to transform ourselves. We have to transform our thinking processes and our way of treating each other. And these characters are here to stay and teach us that. They will be here for a long while. And I mean, we made significant progress since Sita's time, no doubt. But we have a long way to go, especially for women all over this world, and not only for women and men, but for everybody. So that's one reason I think we will
yes.
continue have these conversations and books and literature to help us guide through this, I think.
Yes. Okay, so we have spoken about you as a person who loves mythology, who grew up with tales of Ramayana mythology. Uh, Tell me, who is Sini when it comes to being a reader? So we have heard about where you draw inspiration from and
Yes.
why you wrote Sita. Where does the reader fit in the picture? So what do you like to read? Who are your favorite authors? What are your favorite books? Everything that you can tell me about Sini the reader.
Yeah, I'm a reader of basically everything. Okay, so I don't discriminate when I pick up a book. Sometimes I used to travel a lot for my work, so I would spend times in these bookstalls at the airports, and I randomly pick and choose the authors that I've never heard of, and I would read them.
Okay.
But I grew up reading a lot of Malayalam books, and so I love Malayalam literature. So it's always been a dream of mine to write something in Malayalam. So let me tell you, I rewrote this book in Malayalam, and it's going to come out soon. So I'm excited about
Oh,
that. Sita with a new title. I titled it classically for Malayalam, Yanam Sitayanam. That's the title for it. But I'm excited about
okay.
it. And so for English, I read basically everything from if I'm traveling, I'm reading murder mysteries, suspense thrillers.
Oh,
Yeah, I have
guilty pleasures.
shame to admit that. I want to take the pain away from traveling, so I would read those. But otherwise, I'm at home on a weekend. I'm reading. I try to read good books, literature works, if I can. I just finished a book called Anxious People. It's written by a Swedish author. His name is Frederick Backman. He came out with
Yes, yes. The author of
a man
A Man
called.
Called Oh.
So he just
Yes, which I recently
actually
read.
is this charming story like that story. He's so witty, and then there is so much emotional um, richness in his books, and I love that. It's a great human story writer. So I just finished that, and
Mhm.
it's a wonderful book. Then I started reading two other books. One known as A Gentleman in Moscow, and it was
Which
Amor.
was by Ken Follett, if
No,
I'm not wrong.
Amor Towles or something. I think Towles. I can really pronounce
Okay,
that name.
okay,
Artowles. That's the author.
okay,
But
okay,
this story is from the early 1900s. This count, an aristocrat, was kind of and at a hotel called Hotel Metropole in Kremlin. And
okay.
interestingly, I before the India Russia sorry, not India, US Russia relationship went south
Mhm,
back maybe
mhm.
14 years or so. I was invited by the Russian government to talk about a drug
Okay,
fentanyl in Russia, and I
okay.
happened to stay at the Hotel Metropole. It has so much history.
Wow.
The SARS
Yes.
used to actually, their guests stayed there, the state dignitaries and so forth for the SARS. And then Lenin
Mhm.
stayed there during the Bolshevik Revolution. So it's so much history.
Okay.
Tolstoy stayed there,
Mhm.
Bernard Shaw. So I'm walking around like, these are like so sacred grounds. And like, all these writers
It's
and
amazing when you can live the stories that you are reading. We can when
exactly.
you
So
actually can
so
experience the places and everything. Yes.
personal, right? That you establish that connection right away as soon as you start reading it. So I'm reading that now, and also another book called. I usually have 3 or 4 books open at the same time, and I have a fun book, a fun and but really a good book too. Like Where Did You Go, Benedette? Became a movie also.
Okay.
It's
Yes.
Maria. Some really simple, I think. As the writer, she is definitely, there's a lot of good in it. I love books where there's so much you're crying when you're laughing when you're crying, that kind of book. There's so much emotion.
Yes.
So yeah,
Something that touches you emotionally and connects with you on a personal level.
yeah, I love
So, do
books.
you read non-fiction also, or
Yes,
just fiction?
I do. So right now I am actually reading nonfiction, one on science and one from Dr. Naik again. It's Gita book, with Gita, because I'm trying to educate myself about, so many things about, and he explains things so simply for me. So, so Gita Darshan, something similar to that. And I'm also rereading a Malayalam book that I read in my youth. So, yeah.
Okay. Yes. So, coming back to Malayalam books, you yourself have translated your book, and like you just told that you rewrote the book Sita in Malayalam. So, what about other translations of Sita? Can we expect any soon? Anytime soon?
Well, that's a good question. I have no idea because I haven't asked that to Rupa yet. Yeah, I also have a question on Audible too because some friends here asked me about it, and I have no idea about that. So yeah, if Rupa is here, maybe they can post a comment. I'm not sure.
Yes, let's take this opportunity and tell Rupa that we do want translations and we do want an audiobook. Do you have one in the cards? Okay. So audiobooks and translations. Rupa, we want you to listen. We want this book out in as many mediums as possible and as many ways as possible so that it can reach many people and many people can read it and appreciate what the amazing work that Simi has done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so what are the projects that you will be working on? Writing projects that you'll be working on after this?
Oh, Kalpana, I have no idea. I decided after writing the Malayalam Sita, which originally I was very good at writing in Malayalam when I was in high school, and and I got so much praise, and I've always stayed close to the language by reading books. But spending after 30 years here and only speaking Malayalam with my husband, basically a little bit, and then living in the world of English for so long, I was terrified to write the novel in Malayalam, but I wanted to so desperately, so I tried. And after starting one or two chapters, it became easy for me, and I'm very delighted how it turned out. So I'm very thankful. So after all that hard work, I'm thinking like I'm going to read forever now. I'm not going to even think about writing.
You need a breather. You need a breather.
Exactly.
So, but still, we want to know. Will your next book also be based on in mythology, or will it be something else?
I don't think it will be based on mythology. Now, if I want to write, I want to like some of the others I want to be funny and creative and serious about some topic. And I don't know. So I'm looking for something, and if it occurs to me that it is a good plot, I will. But if not, I won't. So I don't know. I don't think mythology is going to be a project for me again. At this point, I don't believe that.
But there must be other characters that fascinate you apart from Sita.
Yes.
In mythology.
Yes, but if I write one though, it's all going to be again on a human story model, I guess. So it will be very. I mean, mythology. The beauty is that there's so much you can do when you are retelling. If you keep some of the divinity there, the retelling is easier for you. I want to strip the divinity away and attack the characters, remold them, specifically as human beings like you and me, going through these emotions and the turbulent times they face, through the lives. And
if you come to stripping down divinity, if you think of stripping down divinity from characters, you have your life's work cut out for you. There is so much scope there where you can actually do that.
I know there is so much you can do, and there is and it is an exciting field to be in to do that, but it's also a very terrifying field, honestly. So it is. I have no idea what I will do, but yeah, it's something to think about. And I've always been attracted to these stories, and characters. Obviously, there are really fun characters there that you can explore and exploit. But yeah, we'll see. I have my heroine opium to focus on, so
Well, the readers, and as a reader and as a person who loved the retelling of Sita, who love the retelling of the story from a new perspective, from a feminist point of view. I surely hope you soon find yourself again in the same place where you are compelled to write one more story, take it out on paper, and allow the character to be angry again after centuries, because thousands of years ago they were not allowed to be angry. I am looking forward to you finding a character that wants to be angry but has not been allowed that liberty, that privilege.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to you giving that privilege to more characters and more stories and people, and stripping down divinity the way you put it. That's an amazing way of looking at it. We as a reader are looking forward to you stripping down divinity of every character you can, so that we can also understand. Yes, we can also feel those stories and not dismiss them as we used to.
Yes.
Because of the way they have been told before. So like my grandfather was a big devotee of Lord Ram, but I used to have these discussions with him. How can you worship someone who abandoned his
Yeah,
wife?
quite.
So
Yeah.
for me, Ramayana was. I never looked at it as a good story because the focus was only on the oppressor, if
Yes.
that is the right word. I'm not sure it's the right word, but the
Yeah.
focus was on one person's dilemma, and the other person's dilemma, as we discussed earlier, also has
Yeah.
was completely ignored.
Yes.
So I did not find the stories relevant. I dismissed it as a child, as fantasy, which has been served as something that is true. At least
Correct.
with Harry Potter, we know it's a fantasy, and nobody is telling us to worship Harry Potter and just telling us that this is the reality and really it really happened.
Yes.
So it becomes easy for me to enjoy Harry Potter because it has been served to me as a fantasy. But Ramayana, Mahabharata have not been served to me as fantasies. They have been served to me as divine stories and something that
Right.
we aspire to become. And
Right.
we should learn from the stories of dharma, truth, and how we live our life and what
Mhm.
role righteousness plays in us. But
Mhm.
and as a child, I could not bring myself up to worship these characters or
Yeah. That's
lords,
true. Yeah. Yeah.
gods, deities. I never could, bring myself up to do that because I could see the flaws in the stories. I could see
Mhm.
how logically they did not make sense.
Yeah.
But for a contemporary reader, for a person who lives in the 21st century, who has science to turn to whenever there is a doubt, so and the person as a person who seeks in validation and proof in
Yeah.
logic and science, so these stories will make sense only if authors like you do this for us, help us, view them in new perspectives.
Mhm.
So hats off to you, hats off to other authors like I've mentioned before, Devdutt Patnaik, Chitra Devkaruni Banerjee, and Anand Nilekanthan, who are helping us uh, connect with the stories that our forefathers connected with, but in a different way, and
Yeah.
making it easier for us to also tell our children, you
Right.
should read this because
Yeah.
this is uh, at the end of the day, I believe our tradition, our customs do come from
Mhm.
these.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is what we value. Even if we find this as mythology, but we still
Yeah.
value, even if we just look at them as stories, we still value our traditions and all.
Indeed.
So
Yes.
that connect, that culture
Yes.
can be preserved if authors like you help us.
Thank you. And that's a very good point too, because we need to continue to preserve our culture. Nothing was perfect in the past, and nothing will be perfect in the future. But we make changes
Yes.
as we see fit, and we make changes so that our kids can understand the better these stories, these characters, and then continue the tradition as best as they can for the future generations too. So
Yes.
yes, absolutely.
So I also believe that's one way of looking at things when we talk about preserving our culture. We
Yeah.
need not necessarily stick to the manner in which it was maybe 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So if we have evolved, our culture has to evolve. For
Yes.
the culture to remain relevant, for the culture to be a part of our lives, for us to value the culture, it has to evolve along with us. We cannot say that the culture will not evolve, but we will evolve, then the connect will be gone.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So that is where literature like this comes into play.
Mhm. Yes. And I see that you're a Harry Potter fan. I am
I
totally a Harry Potter fan. Okay, so my son was growing up at the time, and it was the most bonding experience that we had. And we used to fight for the book, like we would go and
am.
stand in line to get them, and then at the midnight, and then fight for so we buy two books.
The
So,
same happened with me and my son, and I will not give spoilers for the people who have still not read Harry Potter and maybe are living under a rock. But in book six, when something happens, my son came down the stairs and he was so furious and he was banging things here and there, and I was just smiling. Oh, you reached that point. I know
yes,
you will reach that point. And that was a great bonding experience. It was he
absolutely.
literally picked up a plastic chair and threw it around. You did not mentally prepare me for this to happen, but I did not want to take away the joy, the experience. So I did not give the spoiler, but I used secretly was spying on him. Now he's reading six books. Now he's reached this level, this level, this level. So this is going to erupt in a very great
Yeah.
way. What other fantasy books do you like apart from Harry Potter? I am a big Narnia fan also.
How are you? So yeah, we went through that phase too. Like then, I think Philip Pullman. Then of course, Lord of the Rings was a major.
Yeah, that was something I could not.
I don't read that book, but I love it. I went back. I go back to it and reread here and there Lord of the Rings too. So there are some that I find comfort and the characterization
For
of
some reason, I cannot bring myself up to appreciate. I don't know Lord of the Rings. It's
it is. It
something
takes.
I did not like so much.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones I loved. Game of Thrones
Yeah,
I loved, but
yeah,
not
that's
Lord
really
of the Rings. For
popular,
some
but
reason, I couldn't.
I haven't read
The
those. I'm sorry, but I haven't read those. Yeah, my son has. Yeah, yeah,
it's a big commitment. It's a big commitment if you
yes,
get into reading, not watching Game of Thrones. So maybe. Do you
right.
also feel you have changed as a reader with age? Like I find I was much more patient as a reader when I was young, and now I somehow lost that patience. Do you
Yeah.
think you have evolved and changed as a reader?
Yes, I have, and it had. I think it happens for almost everybody too. One thing is that as you're getting older, like I am in mid 50s, and I realized that I am into more nonfiction these days too. I can read nonfiction. I used to focus on fiction or historical fiction or mythological fiction like that.
Yes.
In the fiction side, but I never really cared for nonfiction that much. I do read science-based books here and there, but that's about it. But now I can read more, and about a decade or so ago, I was drawn more into spirituality, so I started reading some books related to that. And then I am interested in, I am a Hindu because that's what people here, my friends ask me, are you a Hindu? Because, I'm Indian. And I usually say again, I'm a pseudo Hindu because I don't know what being Hindu means really. I didn't really learn about it before I came here. So for the last several years, that's why I read books like, Devdutt Patnaik's or some other books, and trying to understand what our culture means, our mythology means in terms of human life, or the experiences that we go through in life. How can we define them? How can we characterize them? And at the end, the question that almost everybody asks, what's the meaning of all this, right? So as you age, you will change a little bit here and there, and you will find that you have, and then it is hard to find time to read, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's the difficulty that I have. Like, the life is so busy that um, finding time to sit down with a book or a Kindle, that itself is a task, or like you have to actually put a timetable for it and then make it
Yes.
happen. Otherwise, it
Yes.
won't.
Yes. It's
But
it becomes a commitment. It becomes much more demanding as you age.
yes,
It becomes a privilege that you cannot easily afford. You need to make
yeah,
efforts to be able to afford that joy that reading brings up.
very true, very true. And then
Yes.
you try not to lose that privilege. You try not to because reading
Yes.
is the most wonderful thing. You can watch TV forever, you can stream forever, but when you read books, you're growing with your
Yes.
mind so much
Yes.
more than any other thing. So yes,
Yes.
find time to be engaged.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah,
We evolve much faster when we are reading as compared to when we are watching something or consuming stories in
absolutely.
another medium.
Yes, yes,
Yes. So again, another chance for me to give a shout out to Rupa Publications. Please release audiobook, make our lives easier. Let us read the book. Give us many more ways to read the book, not just in English and in on paper or Kindle, but we want to listen to the books also. We
yes,
want translation so that more and more people can read the book and enjoy it, appreciate it, and
yeah.
appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Kalpana. Thank you for having this conversation with me. I am truly
It
grateful to
was
have
lovely.
you
It
here.
was lovely. We hope the audience enjoyed listening to us talk about books and
Yeah.
maybe a few other things that we did talk about. We got carried away in a couple of places, I think. But I hope Ahmedabad Book Club audience and the people who follow it would have enjoyed this. And thank you so much for your attention, for your time. Thank you, Sini, so much. Thank you, Rupa Publications, and thank you, Ahmedabad Book Club, for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
so much,
you. Thank
everyone.
you for the readers out there, and to you, Kalpana, to
Thank
Ahmedabad
you.
Book Club, and to Rupa for publishing my book also. It's been such a privilege to be here. I'm so thankful that you're spending your Friday evening with me, and here it's almost like 11:30 in the morning. I'm going back to work after that, but such a pleasure.
No, no, for
Okay.
me, it was a lovely way to end the day for me.
Yes.
For us in India, it was a lovely way to end the book. It was
Okay.
really, really an
Thank
honor
you.
to be able to talk to you. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Okay. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye bye. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.